In this video, I will look at the way in which my trailer conforms to genre codes and conventions. I will use established genre theories in order to link them to my explanation of how my trailer conforms to genre codes and conventions. Steve Neal came up with a theory called difference and repetition in genre. This theory suggested that repetition was important within a genre, given that it allows audiences to identify the text in their genre. It helps to establish generic codes and conventions that make a genre identifiable to audiences. Therefore, I used codes and conventions of the thriller genre in order to help my audience identify that my film was a thriller genre. I used iconography and iconic images in my trailer to anchor down meaning and ensure I was conforming to the codes and conventions of the genre. An iconic image associated with the thriller genre includes a pot of pills. Therefore, I captured a pot of pills that had been knocked over, with the pills pouring out, in order to use an iconic image that would conform to the genre conventions of the psychological thriller genre. They are often a convention associated with the psychological thriller genre, given that they encode that one of the characters is mentally ill and therefore dependent on pills. Another iconic image that is often used within the thriller genre is a knife. Therefore, I used an extreme shallow focus tight frame shot of a knife in order to conform to the codes and conventions of the genre. I used the iconic image of the knife in order to conform to the conventions of the genre. Knife blades are a conventions of the thriller genre, given that they make the audience feel nervous and on edge, given that knives are dangerous and therefore hint towards the fact that someone might get hurt. Therefore, the way in which I captured the knife using an extreme shallow focus close-up meant that the audience were forced to look at the blade. This therefore shows how my use of the iconic image of the knife, in cohesion with the camera angles, successfully allowed me to conform to the conventions of the thriller genre through using recognizable icons that would be easily identifiable for the audience. Gledhill suggested that genre can be seen as a kind of shorthand serving to increase the efficiency of communication. This therefore means that genre conventions can be used in order to communicate quickly and effectively with the consumer. It means that consumers will be able to identify the genre of the film in a much quicker manner, given that they will recognize genre conventions. Gledhill also suggested that genre can stop a text from becoming too individual and specific. A convention of the thriller genre is that handheld camera movement is often used to capture action moments within the trailer. Therefore, I used the handheld camera work in order to capture the central protagonist running down the street when she felt distressed and worried about having a hallucination where she could see her boyfriend trying to kill her. The steady and shaky movement of the camera is conventional to the thriller genre, given that it helps to make the audience feel panicked and unsettled, given that they are unable to see what is exactly going on due to the footage being so fast-paced and shaky. The handheld footage that I've got of Georgia running down the street successfully shows how I was able to conform to the format and genre conventions of the thriller genre by using the conventional handheld shaky camera movement in order to capture an action moment within my film. You can see how I was able to use the handheld camera movement in order to conform to the conventions of the thriller genre. You can see how I was able to use this convention as a shorthand identification, allowing my audiences to identify that my film was a thriller film. This therefore suggests that I was able to use what Gledhill suggested in order to ensure that my audiences decoded the narrative of my film and the genre of the film. David Buckingham argues that genre is in a constant state of negotiation and change. This therefore implies that genre conventions are no longer applicable to just one genre, as conventions of one genre are now spreading and evolving due to the influences of hybrid genres. This can be applied to my work given that some of the iconic images I used, such as the mise-en-scène features, would have conventionally been associated with the horror genre. We used the mise-en-scène makeup features of stage blood on the knife during the final shot. This captured an extreme close-up of a knife which was covered in blood. Blood, however, is stereotypically a genre convention that belongs to the horror genre. However, now it is also common to see within the thriller genre and even the psychological thriller genre. The fact we have included mise-en-scène and make-up features, such as blood, that are not conventionally associated with the genre of our film helps to show our understanding and awareness of a modern outlook on genre, which suggests that genres overlap. Jean Corner suggested that assigning a text to genre sets up initial expectations, and that challenging too many genre conventions could threaten a text. It is possible to say that many people expect the thriller genre to use dark locations with low-key lighting, given that the dark use of lighting and the use of shadows helps to create uncertainty. Therefore, I tried to film a few sections of footage in the dark. I did this given that I knew it would help to create a tense and eerie atmosphere and thus prove how my thriller trailer was conforming to conventions of the genre. Here you can see from the previous footage how I was able to successfully conform to the conventions of the thriller genre by using low-key and dark lighting setups within some of my footage. It shows how I was able to fulfill audiences' expectations given that they often expect footage to be filmed in a low-key lighting setup and successfully conform to the conventions of the thriller genre. Rick Altman suggested that genre fulfills a set of audience pleasures. This is the idea that audiences expect to see certain genre conventions in a media product, given that these genre conventions help to satisfy and please the audiences. A typical genre convention that is often used within the psychological thriller genre is the use of mirrors as a conventional prop. Mirrors are often used given that they are often used to show the audience the perspective of the central protagonist's world. They are used to show how the central protagonist views the world, even with their mental illness or condition. Therefore, we captured the reflection of B in the mirror using a mid-shot, meaning that you could only see her reflection in the mirror. We directed for her to deliver the line, "He is going to kill me,"
He's going to kill me,
when looking in the mirror, given that this would inform the audience that the reflection of B in the mirror is allowing us to see in her mind and the thoughts that go through her mind on a day-to-day basis. Although this is a discrete genre convention that is specific to the subgenre, here you can see how we have used genre conventions in order to allow the audience to understand and decode the genre of our film quicker. It shows how we have used the genre convention of the conventional mise-en-scène feature such as the mirror in order to make our product more easily identifiable to audiences. We use colloquial costumes given that they are conventional to the genre. Colloquial costumes are often used in order to make the audience feel relaxed and able to relate to the character. Colloquial costumes then make the audience feel tense and on edge, given that the audience have had chance to relate and connect with the characters. The way in which the characters are presented as normal through the use of their colloquial costume then makes the audience feel tense and on edge, given that when odd things start to happen to them, the audience worry that things like this might happen to themselves, given that the characters have been presented as being normal. Therefore, we designed for Justin to wear normal clothes such as Adidas jumper. This allowed the audience to relate to his character given that we presented him as normal and down to earth. This meant that when things started to go wrong, the audience felt more tense and threatened, given that they had had the opportunity to relate to his character and get to know him. We also designed for B to wear colloquial clothes, meaning that as an audience member you could relate to her character. For example, in the shot of her chopping in the kitchen, she is wearing a casual bright pink top. The colloquial clothes that we have used were conventional to the thriller genre and show how our product conforms to the conventions of the genre. Another way in which our trailer conforms to conventions of the thriller genre is through the use of location. We used my house as a location given that I had a similar family background and class as B. I am also of a similar age to B, meaning that my bedroom and things within my house would look realistic to her character. Using naturalistic locations is a convention of the thriller genre, given that naturalistic locations are often used to provide a false sense of security, making the audience feel as though everything is going to be okay. An example of the very naturalistic location which we used was a shot of B's street. This was captured on a very snowy day and shows the normal and real street which she lives down. The naturalistic locations allowed the audience to relate to the character, given that she was presented to be a normal girl that lived down a normal street. This therefore meant that when things started to go wrong, it was even more tense and unsettling, given that the audience had had chance to relate and get to know the character as she was presented to be a normal, down-to-earth girl.